Professional development, or what I will bring back to the staff and how it will inform my teaching. I learned that I want to write a utopian book, but I'm feeling pretty sucked into the machine these days. I learned that I have turned into a bourgeois food snob because I haven't dismantled anything in a long time, and I'm always on the search for fresh organic vegetables. I resisted anything that smacked of let's do to them what they've done to us. I questioned my own racism and learned that New Orleans is not part of the Deep South, it's its own thing. I felt how groups of people can make me feel lonely, and I felt the depth of my own grief. I learned more about the 11 African American men who fought in World War II, and I read about the slave pens that took up Esplanade Street well into the 1800s. When international slave trade was finally banned, the domestic market kicked up. If I were a black woman in this country, I would be super angry. We were told that we had the best weather New Orleans has to offer. This is as good as it gets, honey bun. One poet made up names for the real people she watched on the street: Vinegar Pig and Wolf Meat. Wolf Meat was the naive young woman. Vinegar Pig was the clueless young man. I think the piece was about how damaging gender roles are and how they play out when we are too young to know better. Another poet said I should make my bed an altar, a sacred theater for channeling God. It felt like a tall order. My book on compounded interest would be about anything but money. Dookie Chases is closed on Mondays. People will pay to hear about haunted things well into the night. She told us that in July there's the bull run after the Fiesta of San Fermin in Pamplona, Spain. Only the bar opens at 6:30 in the morning and the roller derby women chase you with big bats. They're dressed up like bulls. I was black and blue that first year, let me tell you. The streets and sidewalks are shifting, everywhere is built on a swamp. When I said, I love New Orleans and that it feels funky, they all laughed and said, yeah, funky in all of the ways. Funky like bohemian and free, and funky like bad economics, poor infrastructure, and stench. Bourbon Street is full of garbage and puke and piss. I get why they call it a water closet, and why the districts are called parishes. I got a laugh when I read Anxiety is a Birthright. I saw Anne Rice's house and the Romeo spikes that supposedly kept suitors out of the young woman's boudoir. And I looked into her Gothic revival windows, and I know why she bought that house. In a Garden District home, the Irish indentured servants lived on the side. We are all so tied to our identities. Beignets are fabulously decadent. One is enough. Powdered sugar everywhere. The poets talked again about how men get to be louder and take up more space in ways that make women look crazy or screeching when they try to do it. I did not have a drink in Siberia. My own privilege slapped me in the face a few times. The Lyft driver said race isn't an issue in New Orleans, but the waiter at the soul food place taught me otherwise. Everyone gets together during football season, then it's like one big happy family, like Ancestry.com. You have to remember that the year before Katrina, Ivan hit, and everyone evacuated to Baton Rouge. The car ride that usually takes just over an hour took something like 15. And then we all just got called back into town like nothing happened. So when we were warned about Katrina, a lot of people were thinking, we're not going through all of that again, and they stayed put. I loved it when one poet said, I used to not say things I thought because it might sound stupid, but now I can say it, which I think means that I've become a woman. It only took 45 years. Sadly, my friend from San Francisco did not get the voodoo role she was wanting so badly. I bought a mood ring for Una. Another poet talked about having a really hard year. She watched her best friend die and had to call in hospice. You got the feeling she had really been through it. At the end of the conversation, she tried to take care of me by saying good things had happened. You know, she'd created a communal living space, she was writing a ton, had a lot of friends. I need to email her. I ate fried okra and collard greens and had tears in my eyes. I watched my ego at work. In one of the panels, a poet asked us to consider what tyrannies we have swallowed. And that was really evocative. What tyrannies have you swallowed? A collaborative poet invited everyone to say a line of their poetry and to move randomly throughout the space. She scooted around on her ass silently. Dang, I missed it. I was working the book table. Where are you, Martha? I chose not to stick my toe in the muddy Mississippi, but she and her wild currents astounded me. Our poor, filthy waterways. You have to be quiet to hear things. She told me if you live in New Orleans, you want your kids to go to private school. The regular public schools in Louisiana are not very good, and we don't recycle. Nobody here does. Is it crawfish or crayfish? Depends on who you ask. The woman's disdain on the plane was clear. New Orleans is full of transplants. That's not Louisiana. Abita is the local brewery in Covington. Where's the best gumbo? At my house, and it does not have tomatoes. Gas station food is where it's at in Louisiana, but you gotta get out a ways. Get cracklins and Bodine. At the Bywater Bread and Breakfast, the radio played jazz and had what sounded like an African-American woman saying to be sure to side hustle for yourself and make your own money, not work and make money for somebody else. When we found the huge spider in the backyard, we poured gasoline on it and lit it on fire. We had to kill it. We had a 55-gallon drum and burned all our trash when I was growing up. I wonder if I'm living out my values. Next time, I'm going to Elizabeth's. The woman on the plane said there is no such thing as white privilege. If anything, it's the other way around. I could not convince her otherwise. Still, I bet she'd be fun to party with. Everything is built on someone else's back. I'm convinced more than ever that love is the only thing that can heal our deepest divides. In New Orleans, the train whistle tells you all you need to know.
Right.